What's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Brandon Smith. So for today's story, we are back in my home country of Canada. This case has always resonated with me, and while it is definitely a more well-known case, my thinking is the more exposure, the better. So allow me to do my small part and tell you the story. Let's get into it. The day is Wednesday, November 28th, 2012. The song One More Night by American pop rock band Maroon 5 is #1 on the Billboard charts. The film The Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 2, starring Kristen Stewart, Robert Pattinson, and Taylor Lautner, is #1 at the box office. And just 10 days ago, wrestling faction The Shield, comprised of Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, make their on-screen main roster debut, laying waste to Ryback and John Cena at the 26th annual Survivor Series in Indianapolis, Indiana, 3,900 kilometers northwest in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. 26-year-old Emma Fillipoff stands barefoot on a busy intersection sidewalk in conversation with police. After the exchange, the officers return to their patrol vehicle and the young woman walks in the opposite direction, disappearing into the provincial capital horizon. This day in mystery. Wednesday, November 28th, 2012, in Victoria, British Columbia, is damp and dreary. With a daytime high of 10 degrees Celsius, the ever-prevalent rain has plagued residents of the Garden City all day. 26-year-old provincial transplant Emma Fillipoff has seen her fair share of showers during her brief stead in her newly adopted home. Born on January 6, 1986 in Perth, Ontario, Emma grew up in a home constructed by her father James alongside her mother Shelley and 3 siblings. Like her dad, Emma is a creative tour de force, described as a goofy spirit with a magnetic personality and penchant for engaging people. Emma is keen in many different areas of interest. Fillipoff spends time teaching English in China, obtaining a degree in photojournalism, and studying culinary arts. Outside of her academics, she is also a voracious poet and accomplished artist. Seduced by the allure of the Pacific Ocean, in the fall of 2011, Emma moves 4 provinces over and 4,700 kilometers west from Ontario to British Columbia. On the left coast now, the holistic Fillipoff fits right in with the green lifestyle of the liberal-leaning province. However, while the lifestyle seems to lend itself well to the bohemian, friendship is not as forthcoming. She can count only a scattering of people as superficial confidants. During the 12 months in her newfound home, Emma bounces from apartment to apartment, even living on both a boat and in a van for some period of stay. Fillipoff's employment is equally unmethodical. She takes on a myriad of odd jobs, from ice cream scooper to short order cook. On October 30th, 2012, her most recent occupation at Redfish Bluefish Seafood Restaurant in Victoria's Inner Harbor ends when the business closes for the season. The now jobless Fillipoff gets more bad news when her red Mazda MPV van breaks down in Sook, BC, a small town east of Victoria. On November 21st, she and a tow truck driver make the 40-kilometer journey to retrieve her vehicle. During the drive, Emma is upbeat. Fillipoff tells the tow truck driver that she plans to surprise her family by moving back home to Perth. Nostalgically gazing out at the snow-capped mountains, Emma says that she can't wait to get home, where she could see the sun and the snow. Back in Victoria now, van in tow, Fillipoff parks the vehicle on the 700 block of Burdett Avenue. Over the next 48 hours, the 20-something's demeanor shifts dramatically. On November 23rd, a tearful Emma calls her mum Shelley back in Ontario and informs the woman of her intentions to come home. Immediately receptive, the elder Fillipoff ensures the younger that all arrangements will be made for her to fly home immediately. Early on the morning of November 24th, Emma calls Shelley again. Fillipoff advises her mum not to come, saying that she now plans on staying and figuring things out for herself. A reluctant but worried Shelley respects her daughter's wishes and cancels her flight. Later that same day, another call and another about face. Emma says that she again wants to return home. This time, however, an addendum. Overwhelmed by the decision, she now needs Shelley to travel to Victoria to help her pack all of her belongings. Hip to the distraught in her daughter's voice, mother immediately books her flight to British Columbia. On November 25th, the brave provincial expat again has a change of heart. Calm and confident during the call, but still with a profound sadness in her voice, Emma tells her mother not to come to Victoria. Shelley agrees to her daughter's demands. Later that same day, city parking enforcement tows Fillipoff's van from its illegal position on Burdett Avenue. Emma retrieves the vehicle and makes arrangements to station the vehicle in the Chateau Victoria on a temporary basis. Back in Ontario on November 27th, an increasingly concerned Shelley decides to phone Sandy Merriman, the name listed as the call display addressee affixed to Emma's previous correspondence. She is shocked to discover that Sandy Merriman is not the name of one of her daughter's friends, but instead a woman's shelter in Victoria. Shelley is even more flabbergasted when the voice on the other end of the call informs her that Emma has been a resident on and off since the winter of 2011. When Emma calls her mom later on that evening, she admits to Shelley that she has been living in a woman's shelter. The confession seemingly moves Emma to reconsider her previous reconsideration, and again, the young woman tearfully pleads for assistance to come home. Shelley makes arrangements to fly out the next day, but the tenuous treatise does not last long, and at 4:30 a.m. on the morning of November 28th, 2012, Emma phones Shelley and says, "Don't come, Mom. Not today. I don't know how I can face you." At 7 a.m., the younger Fillipoff goes to the Chateau Victoria to check on her van. She is very upset when she discovers a parking notice on the vehicle's window proclaiming an impending tow scheduled for later that day. Emma asks hotel staff for one more day of temporary parking, a request which is granted. At 8:23 a.m., clad in beige winter jacket and camouflage pants. CCTV surveillance captures Emma purchasing a $200 prepaid credit card at the 7-Eleven on the corner of Douglas and Humboldt Street. Fillipoff is carrying several bags over her shoulder, including her orange purse. At 12:30 p.m., a friend runs into Emma near Our Place Soup Kitchen on Pandora Street. Fillipoff says that she isn't feeling well at all and can't talk. When the individual asks her if she needs a hug, Emma retreats with an uncharacteristic, horrified look on her face. At 1 p.m., Fillipoff is spotted slowly shuffling along Pandora Street. Onlookers are so concerned with the woman's vapid look and confused, lost appearance that they report the behavior to police. At 3 p.m., Emma is spotted just in front of the Bay Center in downtown Victoria. The now shoeless Fillipoff exhibits the same bizarre demeanor, and when a man nearly hits the woman with his vehicle, Emma gives only a sad smile before shuffling off. This witness too reports the oddity to law enforcement. At 5:54 p.m., Fillipoff uses her debit card to purchase a prepaid cell phone at the same 7-Eleven where she purchased the prepaid credit card earlier that day. At 6 p.m., Emma returns to the Sandy Merriman Women's Shelter. Here, Fillipoff is told by a staff member that her mother is on the way from Ontario to British Columbia. The revelation causes Emma to become very anxious and upset. Fillipoff storms out the front door. One resident tries to run after her, but quickly gives up the chase when she loses sight of a woman just outside of the building. At 6:10 p.m., a driver with ABC Taxi picks Emma up near the shelter. Fillipoff asks the cabbie to take her to the airport. However, despite having approximately $2,500 in her bank account, she changes her mind about the destination when she is told that the fare would run her $60 and asks to be brought back to exactly where she was picked up. When driver and passenger arrive back at the location of their original meeting, Emma asks if she can sit in the cab for a while. The man agrees, but Fillipoff becomes anxious and paranoid soon thereafter when she hears the dispatch radio. Why is there noise coming out of that, she asks. Emma uses her debit card to satisfy the balance of the fare and departs the cab in haste. At 6:30 p.m., Emma Fillipoff is spotted in front of the Empress Hotel, approximately 400 meters from the Sandy Merriman house, by acquaintance Dennis Quay. Dennis asks Emma if she is okay. She responds affirmatively. Quay asks Fillipoff if she is being pursued. She responds negatively. He asks her if she needs help, and again, the answer is no. However, given Emma's 40-yard stare, unattached affect, and lack of footwear, Dennis takes leave for the nearby lodge and summons police for a welfare check. Authorities arrive at 7:16 p.m. For 30 minutes, Fillipoff remains silent, only giving her name when the police become insistent on the identity. At no time during the interaction does Fillipoff engage in dialogue. Instead, she responds with only one-word answers or by nodding her head. The first responders are pointed in their line of questioning, and they ask Emma directly if she is a danger to herself or anyone else. Fillipoff insists that she is not. Believing the woman to be of sound mind, at 8 p.m., the officers watch Emma Fillipoff simply walk away. Emma and her mother Shelley had been going back and forth regarding the former returning from Victoria to Perth over the course of the prior 120 hours. When the two last spoke, Fillipoff was resolute in her decision not to come home. However, racked with worry, Shelley takes the decision into her own hands and touches down in Victoria, British Columbia at 11 p.m. on November 28th. Unbeknownst to Fillipoff, her daughter has already been missing for 3 hours. The arriving woman makes her way to the Sandy Merriman Women's Shelter. Here, Shelley is greeted by a wall of legal rhetoric touting client privilege. Staff at the woman's home tell Fillipoff that they cannot divulge any individual's participation in their program, and certainly not their respective comings and goings. All they can say is that Emma is not at the facility now. Stymied by her inability to establish a last known location for her daughter, and with absolutely no idea where Emma is now, Shelley's next stop is to Victoria Police Headquarters. Before the clock strikes midnight on November 28th, Victoria Police have opened a missing person case for Emma Fillipoff. Jamie McRae leads up the investigation, and a full court press is rapidly brought down on the British Columbia capital city. CCTV footage is gathered from the surrounding area from the previous week. Emma is conclusively identified at the YMCA on November 20th and twice at the 7-Eleven on November 28th. Next, police interview the taxi driver Emma flagged down for that prospective drive to the Victoria airport. He outlines for police the details of their commerce. The police officers who interviewed Emma in front of the Empress Hotel also outline their interaction. Authorities can conclusively say that Emma was alive, though potentially not well, at 8 p.m. However, where she goes from here is unknown. Flyers and missing posters soon blanket the Victoria downtown corridor and quickly spread throughout the community, extending to nearby Vancouver. But Emma Fillipoff does not come forward. 7 days later, on December 5th, Emma's flagged $200 prepaid debit card suddenly becomes active. The visa is used to purchase cigarettes at a gas station near the Wande Fuka Community Center. The transaction is confusing for both law enforcement and Shelley Fillipoff. Emma was a known smoker, but the location of the purchase is 15 kilometers from the Empress Hotel, the site of Fillipoff's last known whereabouts, and a week removed from the appearance. However, the notion that Emma may have made the purchase is quickly quelled when police analyze the surveillance from the gas station and see a man who is decidedly not Fillipoff at the helm of the prepaid debit card. All is not lost, though. Authorities believe that this man could certainly have information as to Emma's whereabouts. A clerk identifies the man in the video for police, and when they track him down, this individual has quite the story to tell. The man says that he found the card while walking the pathway on the Galloping Goose Trail, a scene even further from the Empress Hotel, almost 25 kilometers away. The man continues to tell authorities that after finding the abandoned card on December 5th, he decided to check if it had money remaining on it, which led him to the purchase of the cigarettes at the nearby gas station. Naturally, law enforcement is very skeptical of this unreal story and asks the now suspect if he would be willing to take a polygraph test, and to their surprise, The man agrees. Even more surprising, the finder passes the lie detector test. After accounting for his individual whereabouts on the evening of November 28th, the man is ruled out as a suspect. Police still can't help but think that there must be something to the far-removed discovery site, the Galloping Goose Trail, and the point at which Emma's prepaid debit card was found soon becomes the epicenter of the investigation. Law enforcement combs through the wooded terrain. The nearby harbor is aquatically surveyed on 3 separate occasions. But despite the intense effort and chronologically precise tact, no trace of Emma Fillipoff is thereby found. In our dark window, there formed a ghost, waiting for us to come close. The scrawl in one of Emma Fillipoff's final journal entries. But what was she writing in regards to? When poring over the details contained in the surveillance video of the days leading up to her disappearance, Emma's family believed that they may have discovered the source material of the cryptic pennings. On November 20th, just 8 days before going missing, Fillipoff is spotted at the local YMCA on 851 Broughton Street. She seems tentative and not at all at ease in her surroundings. On 6 separate occasions, she enters and leaves the recreation center, cautiously coming and going while furtively regarding the exterior and interior before infiltrating the breach. There was more. Whilst at the 7-Eleven on the evening of November 28th, Emma maintained the same weary apprehension, pausing at the ledge of the convenience store window and nervously spectating the outside corridor just beyond the aperture. Fillipoff's discontent was not exclusive to CCTV footage. Staff at Sandy Merriman said that Emma was deeply paranoid and that Fillipoff always kept the curtains in her room tightly drawn and eschewed observation at all costs. In addition, employees at the woman's shelter said her behavior was getting worse. Real or perceived, Emma Fillipoff was definitely afraid of something, but what? Or possibly who? One of the people investigators believed could have fit the specter was a man named Julian Huard. Julian and Emma met back in Ontario prior to Fillipoff moving to British Columbia. They formed a certain friendship, and according to Huard, the relationship became somewhat romantic during their time in Perth. Sometime after Emma moved to Victoria, Julian also decided to move to the city as well. According to Huard, he ran into Fillipoff on a handful of occasions whilst in British Columbia, but Julian confesses that Emma didn't seemingly have any interest in reuniting with the star-crossed young man whatsoever. Huard further acknowledges that coincidentally, one of the instances where he came upon Fillipoff in BC was November 28th, the very day that she disappeared. He states that while riding the bus, Julian spots Emma near Alex Goulden Hall just before 12 p.m. on Pandora Avenue, the same street where Fillipoff will be cited subsequently by various other eyewitnesses. Huard reports getting off the bus to ask the seemingly distressed young woman if she needed help. Emma doesn't really respond, merely shaking her head no. It is at that very moment that a frustrated Julian decides that he is done with his once love interest for good. According to Uard, his motivation for relocating to Victoria has nothing to do with Fillipoff's prior move to the city. However, given the timing and his self-professed feelings, officials are naturally suspicious of the jilted man from the east. Detectives are even more cynical when they learn that just months prior to Emma going missing, Julian had sent a lengthy email to James Fillipoff. In the missive, Uard apologizes to the man for his poor treatment of Fillipoff, darkly culminating the virtual scribe with the line, "The last thing I want to do is to be stalking her like I did the last time." Julian is brought in for questioning. Uard has an airtight alibi for the night in question. In November 2013, he agrees to submit to a polygraph test and passes the exam. The RCMP clears the man shortly thereafter and officially acknowledge that Julian Uard is no longer considered a suspect in the disappearance of Emma Fillipoff. You never know what is going to happen until you take a chance and run. There is the promise of flight, and I lay in fear that somehow she's missing. I am missing. Yet another cryptic clue left behind in the diary of Emma Fillipoff. Emma was certainly unhappy in Victoria, and the discontent, to all appearances, was at a crescendo in the days leading up to her disappearance. Investigators wondered if the entry possibly hinted at another denouement for what became of Fillipoff. Maybe she chose to leave. Sightings poured in locally from Victoria and Vancouver before broadening in range to much of Canada, the United States, and even Central America, Europe, and Asia. One potential lead is especially promising when a woman is spotted in a downtown Vancouver coffee shop whom very much resembles the missing Ontarian. A picture of the could-be Emma is clandestinely snapped and shared with Fillipoff's family. The collective also sees potential that the person in the photo could be their missing loved one. The candid snapshot is plastered throughout media outlets in British Columbia. Crushingly, a woman named Julie comes forward and announces herself as the woman in the photo. The doppelganger is decidedly not the woman they are looking for. Months after, a man enters into Hit's boutique in the Gastown neighborhood of Vancouver and immediately makes his presence known when he tears down a missing person's photo hanging in the store window. When shop owners Joel and Lori Sellon ask the man why he would tear down the appeal for the missing Emma Fillipoff, he glibly replies, "Because she does not want to be found." The patron continues that Emma is his girlfriend and elaborates that she went missing because she hates her parents and just wants to be left alone. The stranger leaves the building as quick as he came. Owing to the expressed creepy vibe they got from the guy, Joel and Lori telephone Victoria Police immediately. CCTV footage of the incident is subsequently passed along, and screen grabs of the unidentified green-shirted man soon cover newspaper front pages and broadcast transmissions everywhere. Pleas for the individual with the distinctive gait, the alleged beau of Emma Fillipoff, are ubiquitous, but to this day, the man's identity remains unknown. To everyone from Dead Emma, okay, so I'm dead, floating about on energy or not. watching dying stars, reviving stars, and dreaming milky dreams and shadow dancing on your timelines or whatever. Good luck, every heart. I love you, M. The final journal entry of Emma Fillipoff was prescient in its revelation. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, Emma was struggling. This is undeniable. Fillipoff's paranoia was certainly rising, and so too seemed to be her requisite depression. In addition to the aforementioned post, Emma also filled her journal with other sad entries. Sullen encryptions about having no friends or family in the city and a general feeling of being alone. Fillipoff also wrote of her disdain for her parents. My father turned to me, my mother hating me as a result, and I hating them both. While addressing that they were still capable of exploring all leads, Victoria Police acknowledged that within the department, they were of the mind that Emma Fillipoff chose to end her life. However, the decided theory certainly had its detractors. A panel arranged by the CBC program, The Fifth Estate, strongly disagreed with the Force's thesis. They pointed to Emma's journal entries' lack of specificity and the absence of an autonomous suicide-specific statement as evidence to suggest that Fillipoff did not, in fact, take her own life on the evening of November 28th. A hydrologist on the panel also pointed out that if Emma killed herself in Aqua, near to where her bank card was discovered, research suggests that Fillipoff's body would have been discovered no more than 5 kilometers from the shore. And remember, police searched these same waterways no less than 3 times latte, and no physical evidence was found. Emma's mother and father sided with the network, experts believing emphatically that their daughter did not commit suicide. All right, so what do I think happened? The story of Emma Fillipoff is of particular tragedy. A young woman besought with traumatic emotion goes missing without ever getting the help she needs. Whatever the outcome, she leaves behind a wake of questions and family and friends who are desperate for answers. I hope for positive resolution in this case, but more than a decade removed from November 28th, 2012, the expectation for a constructive outcome seems increasingly remote. In Canada, more than 60,000 people are reported missing every single year. Over 55,000 of these cases are resolved in the first 48 hours. The remaining 5,000 or so individuals pool police databases nationwide. Emma Fillipoff is one of these people. Her case, as I said earlier, has always struck a particular chord with me. I don't really know why, other than I can see myself in her shoes. While I nor anyone else will ever fully understand what Emma was going through at the time of her disappearance, I can certainly relate. I have struggled with mental health. I've been nomadic and isolated. I have removed myself from every possible form of social interaction, desperate for escape, comfortable in loneliness, all while yearning paradoxically for genuine, authentic connection. A contradiction of agony and the hopelessness that surrounds this existence can be exhausting. And if you are also struggling with a similar reality, please remember that the present conditions are anything but everlasting. This too shall pass, and change is possible. There are a multitude of resources available. Professionals, family, and friends are here for you. It really does get better, so please feel comfortable in reaching out to these individuals, as no one should ever suffer in silence. Okay, back to the case. Let's talk theories, and let's begin with the stalking foul play model. In researching this case, I perused through a great deal of Emma's writings. Fillipoff was certainly a talented author, but just as certain, she was a disturbed figure. Her scribes had an undue tenor of bleakness, an emotion that was heightening in the time leading up to her disappearance. This same worry is evident in the CCTV video appertinent to the time frame. Contemporaries have tried to source this trepidation to an actual person, but I think this physical projection is a fool's errand, as I don't believe that there was any one individual bothering Emma. Granted, there is a certain mysterious ambiguity present in Fillipoff's writing, but to never mention a person, reveal any individual as the source of your concern, just seems really unrealistic to me. Latching onto this narrative, none of the people in Emma's life ever remembered Fillipoff talking about someone giving her pause. Employees from the Sandy Merriman detailed Emma's growing paranoia, but each, when interviewed, could not recount a single instance of Fillipoff interacting negatively with anyone else. If Emma was truly beset with a stalker, I have to believe that some bona fide residue of this proviso would be witnessed. Since none exists, I'm ruling it out. I think Fillipoff's troubles were heterogeneous, a composite of woe with no individually derived provenance. Next, let's talk about the leaving concept. Emma certainly had a predilection for absconding. She left behind Ontario, she left behind her friends, and she left behind her family. Since Fillipoff had done this previously, to think that she would do it again is surely within reason. However, in all of her past iterations, Emma kept everyone abreast of her plans. So why would this time be so different? The best predictor of outcomes is past behavior. For this reason, I can't subscribe to the idea that she willingly chose to abandon her life, and in doing so, kept everyone out of the loop, especially to maintain this secrecy for 10 plus years. Yeah, I just can't see it. Fillipoff does possess an innate ability to change her appearance. Looking at an array of pictures of the woman, you could be forgiven for believing that each picture was of a different person. However, as a Canadian, I can tell you that Emma's story is not an obscure regional missing persons case. The disappearance has garnered extensive coverage in the British Columbia area. Fillipoff's case has seen national exposure on programs like The Fifth Estate. True crime aficionados the world over have taken a particular interest in trying to find out what happened to Emma Fillipoff. As such, I have to believe that if she was out there somewhere, anywhere, her discovery would be inevitable. Since it has yet to come to pass, I'm ruling it out. So what does that leave me with? Well, it leaves me with what I am too often left with when I break down these stories: suicide. The pain exhibited in Emma's journals is palpable. Fillipoff hid her pain from everybody in her life, but let the emotion flow in her diary. When her mother Shelley read Emma's journals after the young woman went missing, she was struck by just how much her own divorce negatively affected her daughter. Similarly, the younger Fillipoff only revealed that she had been living in the Sandy Merriman's women's shelter for the past 10 months, just days before her disappearance, and only when the event was discovered. Much to her own detriment, Emma was vigilant in protecting those around her from her own psychological turmoil. This confidentiality was fully realized when Fillipoff closed down all of her social media accounts just 1 week before going missing. In her final journal entry, Emma wrote, "Some have said to me, 'You are free.' I am love, and I am not free. I will not be free until the world is free. Hell is all around me." I believe that while the timing may not have been fully fleshed out, Fillipoff's objective was. Ergo, on the evening of November 28, 2012, Emma Fillipoff summons a taxi bound for the Victoria airport. However, the effort is surface level. Emma cannot even convince herself that this is honestly where she wants to go, and just minutes into the ride, she departs the cab. Fuzzy in the means to accomplish, but resolute in the outcome, Emma goes through the motions of interacting with spectators, friends, Dennis Quaye, police officers, her mind, all the while, far from the associations. Alone now on the egress of the Empress Hotel, Fillipoff wanders through her adopted city, vacillating between full sprint pace and total non-progress. The 26-year-old travels further and further from the urban, finding herself in the rural of the Galloping Goose Trail. From here, Emma looks out at the Pacific Ocean, the monument that brought her here in the first place. Transfixed by its serenity and desperate for a similar tranquility, Fillipoff wades into the water. Away from the maelstrom that has become her life on shore, Emma Fillipoff lets the ocean engulf her entirely. Finally at peace in the still of the Pacific. In the years since her disappearance, Shelley Fillipoff has been unrelenting in finding her daughter. The task has taken her everywhere, or so it seems. Destinations that include the notorious east side of Vancouver, the demonstrated epicenter of Emma Fillipoff sightings. The risk to Shelley's own personal safety is a cost she is willing to take if it means finding Emma. In March 2016, Fillipoff's undertaking was forced to a halt when Ontario Provincial Police charged Emma's mother and brother with money laundering as well as drug and weapons offenses. The Fillipoff pair were facing up to 35 years in Canadian prison if convicted. Shelley insisted that the charges had nothing to do with Emma's disappearance, saying the one has nothing to do with the other. In November 2016, all charges were dropped against Emma's mother. The legal fate of Emma's brother remains unknown. Just days before the 10th anniversary of her disappearance, Victoria Police released an age progression drawing of what Emma Fillipoff might look like now at aged 36. Victoria Police Chief Del Monick acknowledges that age progression drawings are difficult because there are many unknown factors, adding, "For Emma specifically, we didn't know if she may be unhoused or if she is living a happy and healthy lifestyle in another location." Monick also admits that they are no closer to finding Fillipoff today than they were at the onset of their inquiry. However, he classifies the investigation as extensive and remains optimistic, saying all it takes is one tip from the public to bring Emma home. A $25,000 reward is being offered in this case. Thank you so much for listening to the story of Emma Fillipoff. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Just before I go, as always, I want to take a moment to tell you directly that you are a wonderful individual who is capable of good. The stories that I tell on this channel are dark and deal with undeniably heavy subject matter. And if you are watching me now, I would hazard a bet that you probably spend a goodly amount of time watching similar content. As such, it's very important that you remember to calibrate your emotional well-being. Never let the negative overwhelm your positive. Respect the reality that bad things happen, but never underestimate the power of good. Be kind to yourself, do things that make you happy, and cultivate joy. It seems so simple, but too often we lose sight of this basic tenet of our own existence. And with the world in the state that it is now, we all really have to make a concerted effort towards this trifecta of productive living. I'm Brandon Smith, and I'll see you next time.